Welcome back to the Biohacking Beauty podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the science, secrets, and strategies for achieving youthful, radiant skin through cutting edge longevity techniques. I'm your host, Amitai Eshel, here to simplify your journey to aging beautifully and naturally with tips and insights from the best in the business. This episode and every episode is brought to you by Young Goose Skincare, the company I co founded together with my wife, Anastasia, and your partner in innovative biohacking for skin health. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce an inspiring guest who her story and mission align perfectly with our passion for holistic beauty and health. Meet Melissa Bologna, this founder and CEO of Beauty and the Broth, a trailblazing brand that's reinventing bone broth as a beauty and wellness elixir. Melissa's journey is remarkable, spanning international influences, a Hollywood acting career, and her ultimate discovery of bone broth as a transformative tool for energy, gut health, and of course, glowing skin. We'll explore how Melissa turned a personal health breakthrough into a thriving business, the beauty benefits of collagen rich bone broth, and how her dual cultural upbringing and creative pursuits shaped her mission to empower others with accessible, natural beauty solutions. Whether you're curious about how bone broth can upgrade your skin, um, or you're looking for inspiration to start your own wellness journey, you won't want to miss this conversation. So sit back, relax, and get ready to biohack your beauty routine with Melissa Bologna in today's episode of Biohacking Beauty. Let's get it started. Melissa, welcome to the Biohacking Beauty podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, you have one of the most, I think, one of the most candid and engaging Instagram accounts I've ever seen, I think.
Thank you. I try to make it a platform where people could come and get some health advice.
Yeah. So, you know, that's something I ask pretty frequently is I think there are two types of people that are at least are in the field of longevity wellness. Is so the first, I think, is are people who have gone through some health issues themselves, and
Yes.
they kind of have are either they overcame them, or they are in the process of overcoming them, and they want to share what's worked for them, etc. And they got maybe like disappointed by allopathic medicine. They got, something didn't work there with the conventional advice, and they found something else that worked for them better. And the other ones are people who I think they're just like big nerds, like me, and just decided that that's what's interesting for them in life. So how do you see yourself on that spectrum?
Well, I am the complete opposite of you. I've had quite the health journey.
Mm.
Honestly, I don't mean to interrupt our interview, but I
hmm
noticed that the sound bar, yours is recording yours and mine's not showing mine. Is that okay?
I see yours. You're good.
Okay. Okay. So yes, I would consider myself the quintessential New Jersey girl who was never this health focused person, nerdy in my own ways, but not I guess I've become
Yeah.
nerdy in a way, but it all started from chronic digestive issues as a kid,
Wow.
unexplainable digestive issues, to as an adult taking it into my own hands and not only seeing the benefits of something like bone broth that really aided me, but then just seeing my journey through the medical system to later developing an autoimmunity that was unrelated to my digestive issues, that was from mold, and seeing how food as medicine, yet again, including bone broth, came again to kind of help my body and support me. And that's where I just couldn't believe that this isn't more mainstream information.
hmm How did you stumble upon bone broth?
So that is a wonderful question. It's so funny. I looking at me from outside of me, I am so meant to be in this industry. It's
Mm,
quite divine. I could thank my sister for that. My sister is like you, where she's just nerds out on this stuff and has like a real passion for it. So she obviously knew my struggles. I was acting at the time and I was just feeling like sick, unwell. And, I always just thought health was like, okay, great. I look skinny. Like I must be healthy. I must be doing something
hmm.
right. Oh, no, no. She kept trying to get me to try bone broth. She's like, I really think it will help you with your gut. I
Yeah.
finally tried it. Cause at first I'm like, that sounds gross. Why would I do something so crazy?
Yeah.
And I tried it and I quite literally I at the time I thought and I guess I still do, but now I understand the science behind it. I thought it was witchcraft. I thought it was wizardry, magic. Like how could a drink clear brain fog, help me with digestion, help me with the damage knee from sports, lines in the face? I'm like, this is
Hmm.
a potion. And
Yeah.
then I started to do my research, seeing how the cavemen used it to heal themselves in battle made total sense to me. And then going down the rabbit hole of bone broth itself and how it lines the gut microbiome and it has the most bioavailable collagen for your gut microbiome and pumps you with all the essential amino acids and nutrients to also realizing that what it also means to have a healed gut. There's a lot of
Yeah.
benefit in that as well.
Hmm.
The second
Yeah.
brain.
100%. It's your second brain, right? It's funny because you mentioned the cavemen there, and the there are theories that are saying, most animals, they are specializing in something, right? That's what allowed them to survive. They have it in a competitive edge somewhere. And we can obviously think of why, I don't know, like an eagle is going to have a competitive edge, right? It can see very far and whatever, right? And we can talk about like how, different type of an anteater is really good at, like, obviously eating ants, right? But there are theories that what uh, basically the humans, their competitive edge was extracting nutrients out of bones, out of bone marrow and bones, and that is what allowed us to survive for so long. That's what spurred the creation of stone tools, and that is kind of what we are designed to use as the most fundamental part of our diet, because at the end of the day we don't run very well, we don't, obviously we're not good at hunting per se, and what
Speak for
allowed us yeah, yeah, but what allowed us, like, to survive is like basically, coming after the lions finish their food or whatever, and taking the bones and extracting anything we need out of that. So for sure.
Yeah. No, I absolutely I think we're very fortunate. I think there's a time and a place for modern medicine and modern technologies, but
Hmm.
I think we're put on this earth. We're top of the food chain yet. We're by no means the strongest. I mean, do you think
Hmm.
we could fight sharks or lions? But we
Hmm.
have brains, right? So the brains to hunt and kill these animals and use the bones. So I just feel like the purpose of everything that already exists on planet Earth is to be self-sustaining with everything in it. So I'm
Hmm.
really big into ancestral healing. So I think specifically in the food systems, we've just gone too far.
Hmm.
Putting all these chemical additives and all these ingredients that are not found in nature, that all of a sudden cancer exists and all these autoimmunities and illnesses that never existed before. The cavemen didn't have them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think one of the things that we're missing, and you kind of alluded to it, is the ability to um, is the ability to have access to the entire spectrum of whatever we need, right? Like, if we talk about bone broth, which obviously is a good point to refer to. Right now, you can go to Costco or you can go anywhere and you can buy like collagen peptides,
Yes.
or you can buy, uh, basically like powdered bone broth, or you can buy, different ingredient like hydrolyzed collagen, whatever that is. But these are um, the ingredients within a food that we're supposed to be eating as a whole, and that its ingredients are comprising something that is the total is more than the sum of its parts. And I
Yep.
think this is a very, I think most people don't understand that. You said the most bioavailable, but what makes it the most bioavailable is the fact that it is not isolated, actually,
Yes.
rather than something that's isolated and your body doesn't really understand how to approach it.
Yeah, that's something I'm on the same page as you. First of all, liquid is
Hmm.
98% bioavailable. Second of all, bone broth liquid, that's where the magic happens from the bone cooking down. So if you
Hmm.
then turn that into powder, I mean, in my opinion, it's better than nothing. But
Yeah.
and sourcing is really important in bone broth because you are what you
Hmm.
eat. And B, a lot of the collagen breaks down in that process and doesn't stay intact. Like, it
Hmm.
kind of defeats the purpose of it, if you will.
Yeah. So how does one, become, turn from like a bone broth enthusiast to someone who actually like, starts a company based on bone broth?
I've always when I was 6 years old, we got a knock on the door. They're like, "Is Melissa Bologna here?" My mom was like, "My six-year-old daughter?" And they're like, "Yeah, she ordered this inventor's kit."
Wow.
So, I think I've always been entrepreneurial. Like, I would even, like, raise money for the American Heart Association door to door. Like, I took everything, like, very
Wow.
at my lemonade stands. I had a dog walking business. So I think I've always just kinda naturally been like that, and I would say, like, once every other year, like, I wake up in a cold sweat, like, "Oh, I've just had the craziest idea," and it makes
Wow.
so much sense to me, and these ideas come to fruition 7 years later every time, and every these ideas I have, I always know I'm not the right person to execute it. It's, like,
Hmm.
not my wheelhouse, but a good idea. But with the bone broth and then so I knew, I guess, with that being said, I knew one day, it could have been when I was 40, 50, 60, 70, have a company of my own, but it would really have to speak to me. So when it happened with the bone broth, like when I became passionate about bone broth, I was floored. Like it was like someone, discovering Santa. And then what called me about actually creating this was living out in LA, seeing in New York City, which is like a big alcohol society, that there was like 17 pop-up shops to like go get bone broth from a little window. In LA,
Wow.
there was zero. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, how does like the quote unquote center of health and wellness, like the
Hmm.
mecca of, she not have as much bone broth as New York? This stuff is miraculous. And at
Hmm.
first, I'm not gonna say I was thinking small because I think to launch any business, it takes, a lot of grit. And there are just like acting, there are no small parts. But I was thinking
Yeah.
small to like what the ideas become. I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, like I need a bone broth shop in LA, duh." And I actually started going that route, and there was big learnings. I had a offsite commissary kitchen. I started interviewing cooks.
Wow.
But like in California, like running a kitchen, and then you need like workers comp and payroll before I even, like, would get a single broth and order ingredients out the door. It was, like, between 100 and 200 grand. I forget what the number was, and I'm just like, "Holy crap, like, this just doesn't even make sense," and people kept telling me, like, "Melissa, you need a co-packer," and the day the kitchen opened, I pulled the plug. It was, like, the biggest gut punch. I felt so stupid, but I'm learning like everyone else. You gotta start somewhere. It was my first company I've ever started. Got back on the horse 2 months later, found that co-packer, not only found them, but visited them the January before COVID, and that's when I discovered that concentrated format that we're in, and it was that visit, I to see them that changed my business because I was kept up at night. I don't have it right here, this cup that comes in your first subscription order, it's like rice husk BPA free. That was our initial packaging. I'm like, everyone's going to have these cups. 12 are going to come in a box. And then the cups were having trouble sealing, which, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, the product's going to be frozen. So it just needs to get to them. But then what if it melts? Shipping, 2-day shipping so expensive. And it wasn't making sense. Now
Yeah.
that was keeping me up. And then it was on site seeing, when they were doing my tasting in the cups, seeing at the corner of a table this hockey puck looking thing. And I'm like, what's that? They're like, oh, don't worry about that. It's just concentrated. We reduce it down and ship it to the co-packers like that. I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, "But that's my product?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, what's in here?" They're like, "Your product, but with, like, water added." And I'm just like, "Well, why are we adding the water? Like, why wouldn't the customer add the water?" And then that's when that big problem that was keeping me awake was solved from literally showing. That's why in-person business will never stop. Like, not only is it relationship, but, you see things you wouldn't see just, being on the phone or what have you. So it was that moment right before COVID broke out that completely changed my business to be in this shelf stable, concentrated format, which I think is brilliant because now you could bring it on the plane. Bone broth is routine. You can bring it anywhere with you, and you add the hot water in, and it's all USC organic, super clean ingredients. And that's a big thing with bone broth that I found is that it needs to be on routine. And
Yeah,
that's, other reason why I started this company is I saw a lot of issues with the ones on the market. It was like the three little bears, some were too gamey, some were too weak. So I wanted to make the perfect one. So this also makes it customizable to the strength the customer prefers.
for sure. And you get to flex a little bit. Right now, it's very popular, to drink bone broth. So if you can drink bone broth where other people cannot, you
Yes.
you know you are.
Drinking in all 50 states and Canada. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. So that's very interesting. What are some of the things that people report as far as like overall health or maybe skin health that you have noticed or that you're getting as far as feedback?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten some incredible feedback. It really I don't know, sometimes, like, makes me, like, emotional in a good way, like,
Yeah,
seeing it really does change lives. I remember this girl had acne all her life, and she's like, "Do you think bone broth could help?" She's tried everything, like, the harsh stuff too,
yeah.
and, I'm like, "Of course, like, everything comes from the gut. Good skin comes from within, then, of course, you need to reinforce it from the outside too." But yeah, she started doing it for a month. Her acne went away. She couldn't believe it.
Wow.
She she literally couldn't believe it. And then I've had, patients with more serious issues like colitis or, in cancer with sorry, in chemotherapy with cancer. And it's the only thing they could drink, or, they've had an inflamed gut. And it's just done absolute wonders for people. And then, of course, there's just like the luxury of benefits. You don't need to be sick, just giving you a clearer mind and makes you, for me, anyways, it's made me want to make just healthier decisions. It was like my gateway drug into health and wellness because, that mindset, anxiety and depression come from the gut. Like our personalities come from the gut. A lot of chronic inflammation comes from the gut. So, bone broth works in tandem with your gut and soothing and healing it and adding an extra barrier of protection.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I even would say two things. Most people think that most people, most people think that they should take care of what that the results that they're going to get are results that are, I would say, are kind of gut first. What I
Yeah,
mean by that is, oh, I'm going to feel less constipated, or I'm going to not have, acid reflux or something like that. But I think, specifically with healing your gut, you do not even understand how much of your decision making is driven by your gut.
gut feelings.
Yeah, yes. People that have switched diets to extreme diets like veganism or carnivore or anything that you really eliminate a food that you were craving beforehand would know that, because the minute their microbiome changes in their gut, also the way that they view different foods change. but
Totally.
that but that applies to anything really. Like if you have good microbiome, if you have not even talking about soothing, not even talking about like your immune system that's less taxed because you have less gut permeability, but if you have good microbiome that is dialed in with someone that is a high performer, you will make better decisions in your life.
Absolutely. No, having a healed gut is the competitive advantage, that along with sleep. Like
Mm-hmm.
truly, another customer was kind of sad, like pulled me aside. I met her in Miami, And she just like opened up to me. She's like, I suffered from depression all my life. I was on meds. And she even told me like she's tried to take her own life before. And it wasn't until she's done a complete gut cleanse
Hmm.
with the help of bone broth to develop a new gut microbiome did it cure her depression after literally a decade of trying everything.
Hmm. Yeah, and you spoke about acne. The acne. There's actually a very interesting study that came out recently, where they introduced a acne. What they were thinking an acne driving bacteria to people's gut to people's skin, and basically what they found out is that it's the immune system that drives acne, not the actual acne. So it's how our body
Interesting.
reacted to that bacteria, which basically decided if that person is going to have acne or not. And the same thing happens obviously with rosacea. Same thing happens with the amount of collagen we produce, etc. It is mainly how. So obviously a gut that has hyperpermeability, like what we call a leaky gut,
Yep.
has is taxing our immune system. It actually is kind of putting our immune system. It creates a weaker immune system because our immune system is thinking it needs to handle a lot of threats. That these threats actually are leakage from the gut, leakage of particles from the gut. So a lot of skin issues that we're seeing that are chronic are caused by that imperfect gut function. And yeah.
That's interesting that they're proving it's coming from immunity. And that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense because 85 to 90% of our immunity does come from the gut.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, and stress very, very similar, right? Like obviously we the more inflamed we are, the more inflamed our gut is, the more stress we have. And we know, I mean, you can only look at every American president after like 8 years in office or 4 years in office, the amount of they look like they aged by 20 years, right? So that is stress. That is stress. So
Yeah,
the less stress we have, and the gut is a big player in that, the better we're gonna maintain our skin health, which I think is also like super important. So
absolutely.
do you see any improvements in people's, aside from acne, which is obviously I think one end of the spectrum, but another end is like our, glow, skin firmness, tightness, wrinkles, things like that. What are you seeing in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely makes your skin glow. It helps a lot with skin's elasticity. Like
Hmm.
our skin is our largest organ. It's a scaffolding to our bodies, really.
Hmm.
And our body stops producing collagen at 30 years old and then from there
Yeah.
just depletes. So I'm very open about my beauty regimes and when I was 25 I started getting Botox
Hmm.
and I was a smiley kid so I've always had like the crow's feet and the second, the timer went off, like when the Botox wore off, I was like, oh my God, like I need to get to the doctor. No one could see me. And from drinking bone broth, that timer quite literally went away. I was like,
Wow.
wow. And my sister's had like some wrinkles. She just has, the bone broth and it really sincerely does help with the appearance of all of that, tying back to the collagen and being the most bioavailable form of collagen, lining your gut with it and pumping it directly hot with its tiny molecules.
Hmm. Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So how often do you drink bone broth,
Every
would you
day,
say?
of course. I just celebrated my 85th birthday.
But is it like once a day? How often do you drink it?
I have it once a day. I obviously have my brand, but I also, believe it or not, have others or I
Mm,
make it because I do have it every day. So I crave different things or like, I'm big on soups. Mine, I think is the best for drinking it, like
mhm,
a drink or throwing it in things. And there's just something like mental about it out of all the options I have to me, like I'm always in a rush. And
yeah.
I always know it's gonna be 15 grams of protein. And obviously, like I know the sourcing and ingredients, so I don't question it. So whenever like, I'm just like doing stuff to me, I'm like, it's like brainless. It's like so easy to just do mine. Or
Mhm,
if I'm, doing something larger format, I'll either make it or, I'll use another brand, knowing that I'm probably not getting as much collagen or protein, but it's for like a larger base, like soup or something.
That's interesting. And you mentioned sourcing. Is that a big did you need to make a lot of decisions around that when
Sourcing is
starting?
crucial. I think, you could do more harm than good if you're getting, benefit from a sickly animal, right? That's hardly any benefit at all. You know,
Yeah.
people worry about the iron in bone broth, and if you have, um if you have bad sourcing in a stressed out animal, you're gonna get stressed out benefit, and that stuff manifests. So it's really important to know the sourcing, and that was something really important for me. And I'm very lucky I have amazing co-manufacturers that have those capabilities
Hmm.
where we source grass-fed, grass-finished. So that's really important 'cause a lot of people see grass-fed, and it could literally the animal could have been fed grass once, and guess what? Grass-fed.
They don't know
And
that every cow is grass fed. I
yeah,
mean, it is cheaper to grow cattle grazing basically up to 15% for 85% of their lives. So every cattle in the United States for the most part is grass fed up to like the 85 percentage of their lifespan.
yep. And it's important that, everything's free range, that they have space to roam on the farm, that they're treated ethically. And
Hmm.
it's actually been quite interesting in this industry. And the chicken, the same thing, antibiotic, hormone free, all the things. But it's interesting because I'm one of the few of only companies at this point that has the beef as USDA organic.
Mm.
Everyone has, not everyone, but most people have the chicken. And what I've learned is it's very challenging because, the USDA has to be on site for the processing of the beef, not the chicken.
Wow.
And you actually deal, even though you know the label USDA organic that you see on
Hmm.
everything, the chicken will have that, but the jurisdiction is actually the FDA.
Hmm.
So you actually don't really deal with the USDA for the chicken, you deal with the FDA, and they're way less strict.
Hmm.
So the USDA for the beef speaks volumes because they're really, really strict about it.
Interesting. Yeah, now that you mention it, I do see like other brands where the chicken's going to be organic and the beef isn't, or if it's a mix,
Yeah.
suddenly it's not organic.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, devil's advocate, like, we've thought about it many times, not because our product would be any lesser than it is,
Yep.
but because, like, I literally, if you see all the stuff I have to take off my packaging, it's like, come on, like,
Yeah.
like they even questioned my name at one point, Beauty in the Broth, and I'm just like, that's our name.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, I get it, and, a lot of these companies, but some of them are way bigger and they still don't have it. So, I don't know. I think it's simple enough to do, especially if you're bigger, but some companies opt not to do it just because it's incredibly strict.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we deal with many things that we can and can't say, and things like that
Yeah,
every day.
they help
um,
with it.
may have, but that's actually something that we petitioned to the FDA like a bunch of times to say that it does, target wrinkles or stuff like that because
Yeah.
we do. So a lot of times I explain that's the difference. Other companies say, uh, um, the appearance of, for example,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Anyway, um, so that is very interesting. And what was your, I would say, for us, for example, I think sourcing, obviously, skincare, you source a lot of ingredients as ingredients, right?
Yep.
But it is very important that you trust the actual manufacturer of that ingredient, or that
Yes.
you have a relationship where you can test batches, that you can test,
Totally.
how do you have a lot of areas where you say, I want to see how this is made, or I want to make sure that this is correct, or you mentioned, different materials that you use for packaging. How much of it are you consciously like monitoring, or how many of those decisions are like a one-time decision where you could, from now on you can forget about it?
Yeah, it goes back to relationship. I think it's super important. And I've
Yeah.
I've worked with some people where I'm
Yeah.
like, this is shady, this is not good. They definitely don't have integrity.
Yeah.
And it kind of, kills you because, you do businesses with especially when they're small like this, and people like you and I are in charge of the best
Yeah.
of intentions.
Yeah.
We're not Coca-Cola. We're, people who
Hmm.
started this because they believe in it.
Yeah.
So, we have an amazing relationship with our co-manufacturer, and I just think that they're absolutely wonderful, and they completely get it. Like there's like a lot of alignment where they're just like me, and they care so much about the integrity, and they even have issues like making products less than they should be. Like less meaning like like less reputably sourced or less this
Yeah.
or less that. And they care about the potency and quality, and they pride themselves in making craft broth. They even call it
Nice.
farm to pouch. So, they have everything. Like you could trace every ingredient back. We have all the paperwork. Like the carrots come from this place, celery comes from this place, the chicken comes from this place. And, with that being said, when you have a USDA organic product, every part of the supply chain until it's sealed needs this paperwork, and it all needs, and each facility needs this certification on their own, which is really hard to get. So every part of the
Yeah.
supply chain until that package is sealed needs that certification. So, we look into it, but there's also a lot they need to be on their own 2 feet
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
even be a USDA organic facility.
Yeah. Interesting. And
And,
does
and if
all
they are a USDA organic facility, that means they do run a beef product, and that does mean that the USDA has some sort of small office in there.
mhm.
I know it's I've
Interesting.
learned so much.
It's like in Judaism, if you're kosher, you need to have like a representative, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's there all
100.
the time. The easiest job of all times, by the way. You just need to be around. What's your job? Oh, I'm
Exactly.
around to make
I
sure
hang
that it's
out.
kosher. That's literally their job. Uh, so so that's very, very interesting. I want to ask one question about like grass fed, grass finished, and then organic. Do they go into do are they always so if something is organic, is it guaranteed that it's grass fed, grass finished, or these are two things that you need to take care of?
No, if something's organic, it does not guarantee that.
Yeah.
Um, USDA organic, you could still be USDA organic, but not be grass-fed, grass-finished, because you could still
Hmm.
be organic
Yeah.
without that. That just comes down to preference of
Hmm.
sourcing. Um, so yeah, that's why it's also important to double check, where the
Yeah.
source is from. And by all means, email these companies, or, the ones that we're Loud and Proud, they have it on the website. But you
Hmm.
also have to be careful. Like there's so much on the front of packaging where, even outside of bone broth, you see all the buzzwords,
Yeah.
every buzzword you can imagine, and you're like, wow. And you turn it around and it's completely crushing. You really have to look at that nutrition label, look at the ingredients, and then that's what they can't hide.
Yeah.
And, you still can't find the sourcing from that. But if a company is using, natural flavors, xanthan gum, canola oil, like run, don't walk. And
Yeah.
you can't expect them to be doing any good sourcing if they're, have shady ingredients. If you can't pronounce every single one in a food product, that's generally some
Yeah.
foreshadowing of of a not good product.
Yeah, I agree. Or you should really see a speech therapist. I'm just saying that just because
Or
if
there's
the
that,
product is good.
exactly.
No, I'm kidding. So yeah, for sure, that is very important. How do you see it as part of a full of kind of a complete diet? Like, what do you feel like? So okay, so you're a proponent of bone broth. What other rules do you adhere to as far as yourself when you talk about nutrition?
So for me personally, like a lot of people are into this fasting. I think it's super different for male and females. I
Yeah.
think it can work wonders for males. I just
Hmm.
think that females just have so much going on and a lot of hormone stuff that I
Hmm.
generally don't think that's worth it.
Hmm.
I think it's fine to eat an early dinner and get up have breakfast. Something I never liked is breakfast. And I realize as an adult or whatever you want to call me, I don't even think I am one. I realized just through my research and studies that especially females and everyone should get their most amount of protein in the morning.
Hmm.
So to me, especially with my product, 15 grams of protein in just 3 ounces I'm trying to have a big breakfast now, bone broth and eggs and all that stuff. And then,
Hmm.
have like a lighter lunch or regular lunch, whatever, and an early dinner. I think early dinner is very important. I used to I'll never forget when I was like 23 years old and I would
Hmm.
go to dinner at 9 p.m. I'm like, "Oh my God, like who goes to dinner at 6?" Like I will
Uh-huh.
never be the person. Cut to I'm like 5:30. Oh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
I agree. Yeah, I also I went from checking when does the restaurant close to when does the restaurant
Open.
serve dinner. You know, oh, 4:30, fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
sure, if I'm doing some social fun weekend, okay, I'm looking at
Uh-huh.
7:30, 8:30 dinners, but that's not
Uh-huh.
my norm. That's just for, social fun that,
Uh-huh.
even so for social fun in a small way with my girlfriends, we're doing those early dinners.
Oh
But
yeah.
but like, like a vacation type setting where,
Hmm.
you're doing stuff all day, having fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm completely different person than I was, and I
Hmm.
never thought I'd be that person, but I guess, sign of getting
Yeah,
older,
for
wiser.
sure. For sure. That and drinking sparkling water.
Oh,
Uh
oh, you mean this thing I've been drinking during the inter
Listen to me. I
Oh,
that's how you know you are in the different part of your life when you switch to flavorless sparkling water.
yes,
You
100.
cannot be if you're 20-year-old and drinking flavorless sparkling water, first of all, kudos for listening to this podcast, but also like you should probably get yourself checked for,
Yeah,
something.
live here,
There's something
you
wrong.
and enjoy
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
so true, that's actually really funny.
Yeah. What are so are there conditions that you see that would require someone to drink, copious amounts of bone broth, like if someone has like a connective tissue disorder or anything like that? Are there people who should be consuming, significantly more, maybe like 3 times a day onwards of
Um, well, some people do bone broth fast, so obviously that would be a
yeah.
situation. I was personally in a situation where I was consuming a lot of bone broth. Luckily, I had a girl.
Hmm.
When, I discovered I had the autoimmunity, hypothyroidism, they put me on
Yeah.
4 different medications, and I was 30. I'm like, "This is crazy. I'm gonna be on these the
Yeah.
rest of my life." That's when I went, like, the holistic medicine route. They found out I had mold toxicity, and they're like, "This is
Hmm.
the root cause of the autoimmunity," which, the old regular doctors would say, "That's crazy." It is not
Yeah.
crazy. Autoimmunities are a fancy word for, "We don't know what the hell is going on, so here's a bunch of meds."
Hmm.
Um, and the largest part of my protocol was bone broth because actually what I've learned from my own health journey is that bone broth, especially with like in mycotoxins, which I was dealing with, it helps draw out the mycotoxins. And then
Yeah.
when you have the supplement binders for something like mold, then
Hmm.
they're being drawn out because they will hide in like the folds
Hmm.
of your guts. Then the bone broth draws them out. Then the binders take them away. So the first part of my mold protocol, the first week was a bone broth fast. So that's all I could have. And then
Hmm.
I switched to bone broth based soups. And then it was like became, a protein meal with like bone broth on the side as a cup. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely instances. And even with you know, the whole pregnancy conversation, people trying to get pregnant, people that are pregnant, and especially great for moms who just gave birth because your nutrients are so depleted after childbirth, and bone
Hmm.
broth's there to give it all back to you, what you gave away to your baby. So I think
Yeah.
that's another instance that's really powerful for bone broth.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's very important for people who are in the journey of having multiple kids, because I think a lot of people are, having the second kid, the third kid, etc., in a place where they are still depleted from the first kid. They said on average takes like 3 years to kind of replenish reservoirs. And I think
Yeah,
whatever you can do to at least support that, obviously we can talk about, making it quicker or more effective or higher quality, right? We don't want to replenish with McDonald's, but I mean, but whatever you can do to improve, speed, quantity, and quality, I think is super super important.
totally. And there's so many products on the market. My big mantra, what would the cavemen do? Like literally, what
Hmm.
would the cavemen do?
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, like back to basics,
Yeah.
broth. Your grandmothers gave you bone broth, like soup packed with, collagen, nutrients, amino acids.
Yeah.
So to me, like to bring this back to the beginning of the conversation, cavemen use it to heal themselves after battle.
Yeah.
Same thing. I get it. It totally is like a full body elixir.
Yeah. That's very cool. And again, we've really evolved to be able to
Oh,
extract it,
come
right?
on.
That's the circle there. Fantastic. What else do you do that you feel is a kind of non-negotiable in your wellness routine, in your kind of healthy
Um,
lifestyle?
I prioritize my mental health, simply because there was a point in time during this company, because I have no co-founder, I got so burnt out and I was fighting mold toxicity, detoxing, and guess who's running the company? Me.
Yeah.
So, that was a really challenging time,
Hmm.
and it was really hard to come back from. I had a lot of thoughts as a founder, like, and a lot of, soul searching to do. So, just, like, treating myself fairly, like, what does Melissa like to do? What are Melissa's non-negotiables? Simple. I have 2 dogs. I love them. Their happiness is my happiness. So in the
Hmm.
morning, do not contact me. I'll be at the dog park. Like,
Wow.
so just, stuff like that. I think meditation's really important, for anybody. Um, Meditation and just being really clear about what you want in life, and I manifestation to me is a real thing. And it's science. It's literal science. It's neural pathways.
Hmm.
So, taking time out, for gratitude and kind of telling the universe what I want. And I'm actually big on cooking. So, some days I don't have a whole lot of time to cook, but I have a system where I can make the most incredible, like, salmon over zucchini noodle lunch in 15 minutes with like my ninja
Nice.
cooker and all this stuff. So I think just prioritizing time to myself, getting a lot of protein in the morning, um, being kind to myself, and trying to eat at home when I can. I do use some supplements, largely vitamin D. Most people have a
Hmm.
vitamin D deficiency. And, I do love my skincare. I do love, the act of being female, and I like my baths at night.
Yeah, very nice. So how many are there are so you mentioned like don't contact me in the morning. I'm in the dog park. How is it you don't have a co-founder. How are you keeping sane, growing a company? I mean, I do have a co-founder and she's incredible, my wife Anastasia. Uh
Oh,
yeah, and but having a child and trying to allow her as much time with him as possible as he grows up, and for myself as well, the a growing company is a challenge. To how do you juggle the two? Really, like, what is your non-negotiables as far as like juggling life, happiness, and a growing business?
it's extremely difficult, I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
Especially when you're growing, you're self-funding.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could just go out, spend 5 grand a month on social media team and this, that, the other. So it's extremely challenging, but I'm like, I look for indicators like what do I, like this weekend I was in Scottsdale doing an event where my bone broth was there. And I
Hmm.
actually really like doing that. I get to
Yeah.
talk to the customers. I'm social. I like talking to people. I love being a part of community things. And
Hmm.
it's the same, it's hand in hand with like these conferences, same thing. So that's something that lights me up and that sells bone broth. And then you also have to do work that you don't like
Yeah.
accounting and stuff like that. So it is challenging. I try to be organized with a calendar and a to-do list and try to, mark different days to do different things that I know would drive the company forward. And I also try to be kind to myself. Like I remember when I first started it, there was especially out in LA and there's all like this lingo talk of people, the first year you got to make this so people take you seriously. And it's just like, who gives a shit? Like,
Hmm.
I'm not doing this to be like Forbes under 30, even though that ship has sailed now. I'm doing this to bring, a high integrity product to the market. And, and wouldn't I love for it to be a gazillion dollar company one day, of course I would. But if it's not, that's okay. I'm still changing the world and bringing a good product to the world. So I think and I'm a very competitive person. So I just think it's about realizing what I'm doing and why I'm doing it versus like trying to follow like the norms of like people getting you all hyped up about valuations and,
Hmm.
all this like corporate jargon. And, at the end of the day, I have a small business and I'm running a small business and I'm going to take things at my own stride. And I'm very hopeful I'll have a big team one day.
Well, you're fantastic. So I know you will,
Thank
and
you.
that you are making a real difference. I think this is super important. I think one of the things, and obviously, first couple years for Young Goose weren't weren't easy. We didn't have the funds to. I mean, we invested. I don't think anyone has invested as much as we did developing the first product.
Worse.
But we were alone, right? Like, and it was not easy. And I remember the company growing and us reinvesting in R&D or anything that the decisions that we made. And I remember venture capital firms starting to kind of get interested in us in trying to tell us what we should care about. I
Yup,
literally
exactly.
remember I remember sitting. So every year for the last like 3 years, we've had some kind of pop up in the Hamptons, which we're not going to probably do again. It's
Damn it.
not my favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's just not where I like to hang out. Um, and I remember sitting with someone who is fantastic. He managed the Deepak Chopra company at the time,
Oh, cool.
but he is a VC. I don't know if you know, but Deepak Chopra, the name does not belong to Deepak Chopra, the guy.
Come
Yeah,
on.
it
Oh,
calls the healing company or something like that. I don't remember. Anyway, we're sitting with this wonderful gentleman over dinner because he's a good guy, but he is super indoctrinated. Right, he's a head of a VC,
yeah.
like a venture capital firm, and he is trying to explain to us what we should care about and what decisions we need to make. Is like, oh, you guys have NAD, you should have it in every product because this is your. But we're like, but this is not. That's not with integrity. Or you need different forms. We try to like nerd it out with him, and he
Totally.
is like, hey, you're not. So this is what. So the amount. Obviously nowadays, we're at a stage where people don't try to educate us. They either gave up on us or they are trying to catch lightning in a bottle, right? They try to catch what we're doing. But I completely understand that, especially again, we live in Delray Beach. No one, they maybe can teach you how to get stand off your feet after you go to the beach. No one's going to educate you here about you know, valuations. Um, but I couldn't
They
agree with
make
you
it
more.
like this rat race. And at the end of the day, like why did you guys start your company? Why did I start mine? It's for a deep passion and seeing some need in the market and typically pain into purpose.
Yeah.
So, now, especially when I shop for food, I stay small knowing that these founders are just like us. And it takes a strong person to just, stand their ground, even with or without VC money. That's why you have to like keep checking back because the once it goes into those hands, they don't give a crap. They care about
Yeah.
profitability and the numbers and the projections and 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 it's funny, but like they should really think about it, the VCs, because why do they want to invest in you? Oh, because you guys are doing well. Why are you doing well? Because you have integrity and customers see that. So
Yeah.
it's almost ironic.
Well, I'll tell you a story. So I have a friend that exited his probiotic company for $70 million.
Oh, good for him.
Good for him. One of the coolest guys in the world. And the company who bought the company who bought them out, they are a bigger manufacturer of like different probiotic ingredients and enzymes and stuff like that. And overnight they let the all the research facilities that were doing clinical studies with the formulas of the company that got bought, that they're pulling out. They're not going to continue with the research. And the
Wow.
reason is that they just changed all the formulas. They bought this company for its brand value, but then they have replaced all the or most of the ingredients inside with their own, obviously lower quality,
Oh,
obviously ingredients that are cheaper for them to make.
that's
Another story. I mean, very recently, Nestle bought a company. I don't want to. There are so many people who use the supplement, and there's no reason to break their heart. But Nestle bought a company that's only built on one ingredient, and they pay everyone, including Huberman, to say how good it is. That is the and people can buy the same product they sell for like $90 for like $8 on Amazon
oh,
from like a pomegranate extract. Okay. But the other thing is that they are going after every other company that until then was using the same ingredient. And
yeah.
they only bought the company knowing that they have more litigious power. So sometimes it's not about the ingredient. It's also about lying about what the ingredient. So if it's a sexy ingredient, they know that they can sue anyone that's using similar ingredients. And they know that they have enough money to control the narrative, right? I think what's the opportunity behind bone broth is like, as we said over and over and over again, it's ancestral, right?
Yes.
It is as old as us as a species.
Yeah.
And no one, no company, no Nestle or AstraZeneca can come one day and say, "Hey, we actually own bone broth now." Right?
Yeah.
That's why they need all the isolates. By the way, that's why they need all the trick marketing to say, "Hey, do you like this full wholesome product?" Well, guess what? This entire thing is only good because of this one little thing. We're gonna sell you a lot of that one little thing. Forget about the entire spectrum of other things you're getting there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And, I find, especially with bone broth, like, I love my competitors, which is probably an unpopular opinion, because in some circles, bone broth's still avant-garde, so they're educating the consumers, and also it's a really hard barrier to entry. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just, like, there's a lot of parameters to do it right in a really complicated supply chain. So you either need, like, buckets of money or, yeah, to just go through all this whole rigorous process.
Yeah. It's same here. I know of companies. So a lot of the times we're getting asked, "Hey, what do you think about this ingredient?" Or "What do you think about this company?" And it's very difficult for me because I know how other entrepreneurs are they're on the grind, right? Like,
Yes,
I don't know how to say in the grind, on the grind. They're
on the
somewhere
grind.
around the grind. That's where they're at. And um but so how do you sometimes the ingredient is not convincing, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes the ingredient claims to do something in a lab that, the difference between that and doing it in reality is extremely vast. um but at the end of the day, I think the most important but that's not my competitor, by the way. My competitor is the same company I told you about. L'Oreal came and said, "Hey, we like the brand name. Can we pay you $66 million and have our product, just our general
come
formulas?"
on.
I swear to God. I mean, like,
And
if
you guys
anyone.
said no, you guys said no.
Oh, yeah. By the way, they tried to buy
By
us
the
too.
way,
So,
that's it. Big congratulations. I don't know a lot of people that would have said no. That's real ride or die stuff.
yes, but also we are just not done. So what's
Yeah.
the difference? The difference is saying, "Hey, we're in the middle. Please go away, come back when we're done," and we
Oh,
feel like the value is there, and you can't really mess it up.
yeah.
But so this company, L'Oreal, came to this company and said, "Hey, $66 million. Here you go, and we are going to have our ingredients, our formulations. We're going to sprinkle some of your ingredient there, but we're going to sell it. I think each cream costs over $200 there for sure. Like, they have a couple or three products, each one over $200, and you're basically buying the same L'Oreal you'd buy from Macy's for like $60." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's unreal. It's
It,
big.
but it That's what we said about integrity. I wanted to say something about that. I think the most important thing for me now, because I also try to buy small,
Yeah.
and I want to know the founders. Some people might not like me. I'm apolitical. I don't care about it enough, to be honest with you, I think. um but I mean, I remember going on a very big YouTube channel, millions of whatever, and the amount of like, hey, he's Israeli, we're never going to buy anything from him.
Oh my
That's fine.
god.
But that is fine. Do you know why it's fine? It's because they make a decision off of at least what they believe, knowing me. I
Yeah.
prefer that as a general guideline rather than making decisions that are based on the amount of advertisements your brain was hit on from TikTok or whatever, or Instagram or whatever that is. I really prefer that.
Yeah.
At least you know who I am. And in other companies, what I try to understand is that's what, kind of the questions I asked you today, is the decision making of that founder, of the leader of that brand. I
Totally.
I
Because
want to know.
it's throughout the whole brand.
Yeah, but and there is no. I can't go to the farm and say, "Hey, show me your how you provide food for your chickens." I
Yeah.
can't, and I can't do it for everything that I buy. So as much as what I want to see is track record of decision making,
Yep.
and that's what's going to guide me as far as like who I trust more or less, and especially in industries like supplements, skincare,
Yeah.
clothing, whatever that these are so unregulated in the United States. I mean, we see that now with AG1, right? Like whether it's whatever is going to come to light there, we're seeing them saying, hey, that's a guy that is not making good decisions, the owner of the company, and therefore everything stemmed from that, and that's not a good company to buy, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it happened, this, brand of mine, actually, Bel Campo. They sold all this really nice meats and everything, and they actually had a spot in LA, and you could get a cup of bone broth. It was like a place where you buy
Well,
meat. They sell really freaking delicious meats. They got the whistle blown on them. The founder claimed that everything was fed a certain thing, and then, people or whatever went to the farm, and it was just totally false.
yeah.
And yeah, they got blown the whistle on in a big way. Their store shut down and everything.
Well, shout out to our friend Jamie McGuire. Jamie is a great esthetician, and she, I think, was one of the first ones to kind of blow the whistle on Vital Farms and their eggs.
Yes, the eggs. I
The
yes,
eggs.
100.
And
I don't
she's
want
so,
their
I
eggs
mean,
anymore.
I don't know how I didn't think about it. She's like,
Yeah,
well, they're everywhere. They're
yeah,
everywhere in the United States, and they claim um like a certain amount of, I think, 108 feet per chicken. And she calculates like you would need a state in the United States.
damn.
So yeah, like
No,
unless
it's
there are
true.
yeah.
They are everywhere, but
Hmm.
no one thinks to look in like that. But it was obviously something really important to her. Yeah,
Hmm.
now I don't buy them anymore. I buy Happy Egg.
I buy I buy locally from Loxahatchee Farms. That's where we buy the eggs.
Locally is even better.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very, very, very important. I feel like that type of like deciphering the decision making of owners, and you're not always going to be right, but it's better to be wrong out of those parameters. I feel like.
I completely agree. I completely agree. What's more powerful than looking at advertising is getting a feel for who the founder is. I completely agree with that. That's
Yeah,
very smart advice.
because I know, as a matter of I'm not gonna name one of my heroes, one of my personal heroes texted texted us. I'll tell you off air because you know who the person is. Texted us repeatedly, by the way, and she met us here in West Palm. Love your products. Love your products. Love your products. Um, what do you think about this? A lot of like more famous people, they get my phone number
Yeah.
because people think I'm okay with giving, which I am. Well, I'm okay with giving it out. Like if someone gets my phone number, they have my time. I like to talk, as people know, and a lot of us, spent a couple hours with her on the phone in aggregate. And then I tell her, hey, you have such a nice, so many nice things to say. uh, I'd love for you to let other people know that, because you have, a lot of people listening to you. Again, you were on every big podcast. You are a very famous person.
Yeah.
And she goes, "That's great. Talk to my team." And the team is like, "Yeah, it's gonna be, depends on what you want, but we start at 15K a month."
God, classic
And
that cup.
yeah, no, but it's, and I know other people that told us, we never heard about you, but if you'll pay us that, 60 grand, we'll say whatever you want.
It's crazy. I think that's why people care too about influencers and podcasters. How much do they stick to their integrity? Like this second, they're like pay to play. It's like goodbye. At
Yeah,
least
I
for
think,
me, but I'm like a truth seeker.
yeah, yeah, I think everyone, I agree with you. I think everyone needs to understand how they make money. I mean, we have a friend like Aggie. Aggie is a great example. Shout out to Aggie. That for a very long time was just, basically sharing her life. She's extremely, I think there are people that, like, such as yourself, by the way, that just have the it factor. They're just interesting. People
Yeah,
will just tune in, right?
yeah, totally.
But it was a very long time until she decided, hey, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna make a skincare, a supplement brand. And that's one way to monetize it. Another way is really to monetize your influence. But this is addictive, with absolute power corrupts absolutely, they say, right?
And with absolute power comes absolute responsibility.
Yeah, that's also true. And I think, the ability to make money off of your recommendations is addictive, and you need a lot of integrity. I think it's much harder to have integrity. Yeah.
Tough because I'll do like a product exchange. I'll send my stuff to a big influencer. They'll send me their stuff, like doctors too. I'll look at the ingredients and I'm like, I can't post this. And then they're like,
Hmm.
hey, Melissa, like, did you get our package? Like, hey, like, because they're like looking for me to post. And it's just like, sometimes I'm just like upfront and I tell them, but sometimes it just like sucks because like I have a bone broth company that'd be amazing to promote. Then you're just like so shocked that their product has like whatever ingredient, but it's just like I just can't do it.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes that you don't even know. I'll give, that's the devil's advocate.
Yeah, sometimes you
Sometimes
don't know, but
you don't
sometimes
know.
you do know, and just like the obvious ingredients.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Anyway, Melissa, listen, you are a magical person. You are
Oh,
so nice to
yeah.
talk to. It's very nice.
I know
Uh,
you're so nice to talk to.
so, how do people? So, I think, the evil plan of this podcast is true. The evil plan of this podcast is, at the end of the day, showing people things that can improve their health, because then our products work better. It's so I we're very honest about that. We, for example, do not uh, take any commission. No one pays us anything. We invite whoever we want, etc. And I think, bone broth is like the perfect example, because it really improves. It's a fundamental food source that then, our products can work better. So it is in our best interest that people
Yes.
buy and use your product. How do they do that?
They go to thebeautyinthebroth.com or follow us at the Beauty in the Broth to see some updates and postings from us.
Fantastic. And if people want to follow you personally, is that something that
It's
they should? I'm telling them that they should, but
they should do it all. I mean, why
yeah. Oh
choose?
yeah.
At Melissa Bologna, and I like to point out that Bologna has no G.
Aha. Okay. Well, it's good. Everything's going to be in the show notes. Beauty and the broth. It's such a cool concept, and I really appreciate the time that you gave us today. It was very fun for me. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much, Amate. I had so much fun speaking with you and looking forward to doing it again tomorrow and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
your POV.
Uh huh. Fantastic. All right. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around, and we'll see you here next time.
Thank you.